السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. طبتم وطاب ممشاكم وتبوأتم من الجنة منزلا. May you be happy and may your walk be blessed and may you be awarded a dignified position in Jannah. Allahumma ameen. You all made it in this severe weather and I expected honestly that no one would show up today. So thank you so much. May Allah reward everyone for every step they took to the masjid. And of course, our dear Sheikh that he also made it for today. We are delighted to have our dear Sheikh Riyad, and Yusufi will, inshallah, introduce him better than me. And it will be a very, inshallah, very beneficial event for everyone. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant and give our Sheikh and everyone here ikhlas and tawfiq. Without ikhlas, without pure hearts, all our effort and all our time will go to waste. And without tawfiq, without success from Allah, all our knowledge that we will learn today will also go to waste or will be useless. So it is very important to prepare our hearts with ikhlas and tawfiq. نسأل الله تعالى أن يرزقنا جميعا الإخلاص والتوفيق. And now I'll give the floor to Brother Yusuf, inshallah.
جزاكم الله خيرا إمام محمد. الحمد لله بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. First of all, I just really want to thank Imam Muhammad, Sheikh Hassan, Sidi Mustafa, and the rest of the leadership here for hosting Sheikh Riyad and the whole team here from Al Medina for this important program. I want to just first say that we're going to have a little bit of a long night. And what I mean by that is we're first going to have a lecture by Sheikh Riyad on Yaqeen. You'll hear a little bit about the seminary, inshallah, and perhaps some Q&A. And then we'll have some food. After that, we'll pray Aisha and a little bit of Qiyam. And then we'll finish the night that way. I know that I'm asking a lot from everyone here because it will be a little bit longer night, but I'm asking that you just really focus, inshallah, with us today. And this was something I asked of the leadership. So if you have any issues with it, blame me, not them, inshallah. This was not their necessarily choice. I'm really, really delighted to introduce our community here to Sheikh Riyad Saluji, who I really do believe is one of the lights of Islam for our community, really throughout the world. He is someone that had a career in law and politics, but at the age of 33 decided to be a seeker of knowledge. And he moved to South Africa where he studied usul and Islamic jurisprudence, and then moved to Turkey where he's studied tazkiyah. Among his teachers are Sheikh Amin Qadasallahu Sirrahu, may Allah sanctify his soul, and Sheikh Mukhtar Maghrawi, whom many of us know, inshallah. So with that, I'll turn it over to him, and again want to thank the leadership here for hosting us, and also just want to say that Imam Muhammad and Sheikh Hassan did such a beautiful time in Ramadan and gave such beautiful khatiras. Sheikh Yunus, Sheikh Yunus, that this was my favorite masjid in Ramadan to be at. So may Allah bless you all, inshallah. And with that, I'll turn it over to Sheikh Riyad.
Bismillah. No, alhamdulillah, I think just a bit. بسم الله الذي لا إله سواه الواحد الأحد الفرد الصمد الذي لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله كما صليت وباركت وسلمت على سيدنا إبراهيم وعلى آل سيدنا إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. كيف حالكم? Alhamdulillah بخير. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala writes our time together as a time in His dhikr, time in His remembrance subhanahu, and also time for bi'idhnillah beneficial ilm that is nafi'. Allahumma inna na'udhu bika min ilmin la yanfa' wa min qalbin la yakhsha' wa min nafsin la tashba' wa min du'a'in la yusma'. Ya Allah, we seek refuge in you from ilm that does not benefit us with you, subhanahu. And consequently, because that ilm is not nafi', we seek refuge in you from qulub, from hearts that are not in a state of ijlal of you, in reverence, in majesty of you. Because if the ilm was beneficial, if the ilm was transformative, it would affect my qalb. And my qalb would be in a state of khashya. My qalb would be in a state of khushu'. And if my qalb is not in a state of khashya, then my nafs will not be satiated. My nafs will not be ever satisfied. And therefore, my nafs will always be in a state of wanting more, in a state of agitation. And if that is the case, then my dua to you will not be with a heart that is in khashya and khushu', in majesty and reverence of you, and consequently my nafs will be agitated and unfocused, and my dua will not be heard. And it all begins with ilm that does not benefit. For may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make the moments that we have moments of ilm that truly is beneficial in my relationship personally, experientially, wujdanan with Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. In this context, the greatest trial, one could say, for Muslims in modernity is the trial of yaqeen, the trial of certainty. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam says to begin, ما نزل في الأرض شيء أقل من اليقين. These texts that we will learn together are texts compiled by the huffaz of hadith. And they are the texts of the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and also the words of the great ulama of this ummah. And so to begin, his words sallallahu alayhi wasallam, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not descended anything rarer on this earth than yaqeen. The rarest of all gifts from Allah Azza wa Jal, the rarest of all that comes from the heavenly dimension, from the dimension of the ghaib, the samawi dimension, the rarest of gifts is the gift of yaqeen. And that means practically that few people have yaqeen. And that means practically because we don't speak about yaqeen really in the context of those who don't have tawheed and iman. We speak about yaqeen in the context of those who have iman, which means practically that among believers among Muslims, very few of us possess this attribute of yaqeen. What is yaqeen? Well, if we translate it into English, you would know yaqeen means certainty, to be sure of something, certitude. That is to believe in something or to know something without any doubt, without any shak. To know something without any hesitation, without any taraddud. To know something as though you see it. And that's why of the early ulama, some of them had described yaqeen as to know something kal-mu'ayana, as though you see it. Of the early generation of the Sahaba, one of them had said, radiyallahu ta'ala an, he said, لو كشف الغطاء مزددت يقينا. He said, if the veil separating me and the unseen was lifted, if the veil separating me from the ghaib was lifted, for example, and suddenly I could see angels, suddenly I could see Jannah, suddenly I could see Nar. He says, if that happened, I would not increase in Iman. I would not increase in Yaqeen. Meaning that his Iman was such that he believed in the ghaib as though he saw it. Kal-mu'ayana, as though he saw it. And that is similar, hafidhukumullah, to the state of ihsan in some ways. أن تعبد الله كأنك تراه, as though you worship Allah like you see Him, subhanahu. A second text from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He said, إن الناس لم يؤتوا في هذه الدنيا خيرا من اليقين والعافية. He said, people were not given anything in this dunya better than two things. The first one is yaqeen, and the second one is afiyah. First yaqeen, then afiyah. Afiyah, as you know, is to live in a state of maslahah, to live in a state of goodness, of welfare, and to be free from all kinds of harm. So, afiyah includes being free from physical harm, material harm, intellectual harm, mental harm, psychological harm, spiritual harm, harm or darar at the level of the individual, fardan, darar, harm at the level of the family, harm at the level of society. So afiyah includes freedom from harm at all of those levels. One word, yet its meaning is so vast, so wasi'. And in the text, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam says that first of the best that Allah gives, the first one is yaqeen, and the second one is afiyah. Because there can be no afiyah without yaqeen. There is no true afiyah, there is no true freedom from harm except with the following of the shara', which means ittiba' of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, which means obedience to Allah, which is about yaqeen. So only with yaqeen comes true afiyah. And my lack of afiyah at any of those levels is very well may very well be because of my lack of yaqeen. And so he says in the second text now, of the best, actually the best that Allah gives is yaqeen and then afiyah. And then he says at the end of the text, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam, he says, فَسَلُوهُمَا. So ask Allah for them. Because now that I know what the best is, it remains for me to ask. Ask for yaqeen, ask for afiyah. The third text. So up to this point, what do we know? Yaqeen is the rarest of what Allah gives. Secondly, yaqeen is the best of what Allah gives to His ibad. Thirdly, he said sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, نجا أول هذه الأمة باليقين والزهد ويهلك آخر هذه الأمة بالبخل والأمل. He said sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the first of this ummah, and here likely he's referring to his generation of the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum. Naja, they achieved safety, a salima. They achieved security, amina. They achieved success, aflaha. All of those meanings in naja. So they achieved the earliest generation. They achieved success, safety, salvation, security. How? What was the secret of the best generation after the Anbiya and the Rusul? And of course, the Anbiya and the Rusul, they have yaqeen. But those who are not Anbiya, those who are not of the Rusul, the awliya, the salihun, what makes them special, what makes them connected, if you like, in some way to the Anbiya and Rusul, yaqeen. And so he said, they attained what they attained because of yaqeen. That najah, that success, is individually, all of them individually, meaning who they were intellectually, spiritually, culturally, in their talents, in their abilities, in what Allah allowed them to be of instruments, of mafatih, of khair, and of maghaliq, of shar, what Allah allowed them to be of instruments of goodness, keys of goodness, and locks of evil, collectively and individually, as individuals and as a society. How did they accomplish what they did? By yaqeen. And he says, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, that the last of this ummah basically because of their lack of yaqeen, will be yahlik, will be ruined. The fourth text, he says, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, ما أخاف على أمتي إلا ضعف اليقين. The only thing, now this is for Hasr, ما أخاف إلا, to emphasize the main fear that he had, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. I only fear, literally that's what it says, I only fear for my ummah the weakness of their yaqeen. And he had many fears for the ummah, as though those other fears are because of a lack of our yaqeen. Those are the texts generally to begin with about yaqeen. What do we know? It's the rarest of all that Allah gives. It's the best of all that Allah gives. It's the secret of success, of safety, of salvation, of the earliest and the best of generations. And fourth, it is the greatest fear of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam that I lack yaqeen. Now, why is it so valuable? Well, if I had yaqeen, what would happen? Question. Forgive me while I drink. And by the way, my most favorite tea is the tea of my teacher, Sheikh Mukhtar Maghrawi. And this is almost exactly like it. He's from Algeria. When he makes tea for us, this is almost exactly like it. So I'm going to take your permission as an excuse because of my voice, but I also want to drink this before it gets cold. You help me. How would yaqeen, because of what we know, how would yaqeen change me? How could it transform me? Why is it so important? Why is it the best that Allah gives? What would you say? What would you say? Indeed, that the ulama would say that yaqeen and tawakkul are connected, very much connected, as we shall see in other texts of the ulama. And that with yaqeen comes tawakkul. With tawakkul comes freedom. Freedom of my mind, freedom of my heart, knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's rububiyyah is supreme. Only Allah ta'ala is ar-raziq, ar-razzaq, the provider. Knowing only Allah ta'ala is the source of salam, as-salam. Knowing only Allah ta'ala is the source of aman, al-mu'min. Knowing only that Allah ta'ala is the source of openings, success, al-fattah, and so forth and so on. That tawakkul. That's what yaqeen would do. It would free me, free my heart, free my mind, free my life, free my deeds, free my words. It would be, as some of them would say, an ecological change. What's an ecological change? Well, an ecological change is a change that changes the entire system, the entire nizam. It doesn't add, it doesn't subtract. That's an ecological change. If we take out caterpillars from the environment does not have caterpillars. The environment is not the environment minus caterpillars. The environment is completely changed. That's an ecological change. That's a fundamental change in everything in the environment. So if I add the ingredient of yaqeen to my qalb, not just my aql, my qalb, then everything changes. Everything changes. Imagine what it's like to live knowing with certainty that Allah is watching me inside of my qalb. Imagine that. Knowing that with certainty, meaning it becomes something that is connected to me. Muttasilun bi. It's connected, it's inseparable from me. To know that Allah is always watching what's happening inside of my mind, inside of my qalb, my thoughts, my feelings, my ideas, my drives, my energies. That changes. What do they say? It's a game. It's a game changer. Maybe not the best word. Life's not a game. You know, life has become entertainment, so we like the word game changer. Like it changes, you know, when something changes in life, we say the game changes. Well, life changes. Yes. What would it do? And we can do this all night. And inshallah, I think there's a lot of good in it. To reflect in some tafakkur about if I had yaqeen and to feel what would happen. To feel what would it be like. Imagine my relationship with Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Imagine what would happen. That if I had yaqeen that everything that he does, not only that he commands, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, is khair. What would my relationship to the sunnah be like? And that everything, not only that he prohibits, but that he just stays away from, is bad. At some level, what would my relationship to the sunnah be like? That he sees with his qalb. His qalb. Imagine. Actually, we can't. Only Allah knows Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam's maqam and ma'na. What does he see with his heart? What does he know with his heart? What does he, with his hikmah, with his wisdom? And all of that is embodied in his sunnah. All of that is his sunnah, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So how would yaqeen transform my relationship with Al-Habib, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wasallam? And therefore, in brief, Al-Hasan, meaning Hasan al-Basri, rahimahullah, radiallahu ta'ala an, he said, now referring to these texts, he said, Sadaqa Rasulullah, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Rasulullah, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, spoke the truth. Bil yaqeen, tulibatil jannah. By yaqeen, Jannah is sought. If I don't have yaqeen, how is Jannah sought? Bil yaqeen, huriba minan nar. By yaqeen, I flee from the fire. Meaning, by yaqeen, I do what is needed to be done to get to Jannah. By yaqeen, I have the strength, I have the energy to stay away from Allah's prohibitions. باليقين أوتيت الفرائض. By yaqeen, the fara'id are done. باليقين صبر على الحق. By yaqeen, I'm patient in holding on to what is true. The difficulty of holding on to what is true in the society, to hold on to our values, to hold on to our akhlaq, to hold on to haya, to hold on to sidq, to hold on to amana, to hold on to salah, to hold on to dua, to hold on to birrul walidain, being good to my parents. Holding on to those values in this society, which is a society or an environment of shak, of doubt. Shak in what? In Allah's existence. Shak in Allah's attributes. Shak in the akhlaq that come from Allah's attributes that I must have at my human level. Shak in the shara and the rules and norms of the shara. So, bil yaqeen subira ala al-haq. It is only by yaqeen that I'm truly able to hold on to what is true in the face of challenge. So, what would be some of the fruits of yaqeen? Very briefly, this is a longer discussion and so important, but some of them. So this is a text from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. It's a long text, but the end, he says, Al-karamu at-taqwa. True honor is taqwa. Wa-sharafu at-tawadu'. Nobility is humbleness. It's almost like they're opposites. What is true honor? Humbleness. What is true nobility? True nobility is not having takabbur or tafakhur. True nobility is taqwa. And then he says this, وَالْيَقِينُ الْغِنَى. Yaqeen is richness. Yaqeen is wealth. Ponder that. If I had yaqeen, how rich would I be inside? How free would I be inside from anything besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? In another text, one of the earlier ulama, he's quoting now Luqman, either alayhi salam or radiyallahu an or rahimahullah. He's quoting Sayyid Luqman, and he says, Luqman is now speaking to his son in this text. And these are all ma'ani of the sunnah, because as you know, the ulama al-qudama, al-awwalun, their words are the practical manifestations of the Quran and sunnah. They have to be. Otherwise they would not be ulama, would not be mujtahidun, would not be mujtahidun awliya. So he says, Ya bunayya, he says, oh my young son, inna as-sabra ala al-makarih min husn al-yaqeen. He says, oh my young son, being patient in that which is uncomfortable is from the beauty of yaqeen. And he says this, he says, وَإِنَّ لِكُلِّ عَمَلٍ كَمَالًا وَغَايَةً. Every action has a perfection and an aim. Every action, every amal has an objective, and every amal has something to which to make it perfect. And he says, وَكَمَالُ الْعِبَادَةِ الْوَرَعُ وَالْيَقِينُ. And he says the perfection in ibadah is what? Two things, wara' and yaqeen. Meaning, yaqeen in my ibadah. Do I have yaqeen in my dua? Yaqeen in my salah? Yaqeen in my tilawah of the Quran? Yaqeen in my khidmah, in my service of others? Yaqeen in my akhlaq and akhlaq and holding fast to them is an ibadah. Another one of them said, this is a Sahabi, he says, he used to say this, وَلَمِثْقَالُ ذَرَّةٍ مِّن بِرٍّ مِّن صَاحِبِ تَقْوًى وَيَقِينٍ أَفْضَلُ وَأَرْجَحُ وَأَعْظَمُ مِنْ أَمْثَالِ الْجِبَالِ عِبَادَةً مِنَ الْمُغْتَرِبِينَ. He says, the grain or the atom from someone who has yaqeen, a tiny speck of someone who has yaqeen is better, is weightier, is greater in ibadah than someone who does a mountain of ibadah. Basically the meaning of the text. Meaning someone who does, let's say, a mountain's worth. So where are we? Boston. Sometimes I forget. Have any of you seen Yosemite or pictures of it? It's a national park in California. If you haven't, that's a place in the US you should really see. And to see it around this time when there's a lot of water. So in Yosemite National Park, I had the chance to be there probably maybe 2 months ago for a day, for 2 days. Those mountains are really quite incredible. They're huge, spectacular mountains that the park is known for. So a mountain's weight of Yosemite-like mountains of ibadah, imagine that, of dhikr, a mountain range of dhikr, a mountain range of khidmah, a mountain range of sadaqah, a mountain range of mujahada, a mountain range of salawat on Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If someone did that deed with a grain of yaqeen, it's better, it's heavier, it's superior than a Himalayan mountain range of that ibadah. That's the importance of yaqeen. This one, which is also a very beautiful text, it's narrated about Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam. And the meaning is true. The ma'na sahih, la shak. Due to the other texts that we saw, basically, when we do i'tibar of all of the texts like the ulama do, and the huffaz of hadith do, this ma'na is sahihul ma'na. La shakka fi dhalik. No doubt. So, in terms of its ma'na. So, the story is this, that the disciples, the Hawariyun, are looking for Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam. And they say, they're looking for him, and then they're told, he's by the Bahr, he's by basically the sea. And they go to the sea, and what do? They find him. What do you think he's doing on the sea? He's walking. Where is he walking? He's walking on water. Khalas, mu'jiza of the mu'jizat of the Anbiya. Mumkinul wujud, mumkinul wuku'. It happens, it's narrated, done. Not hard to believe. Very rational, aqliyan. So he's walking on water. So they are amazed. Maybe it's the first time they saw him do that. And then they say, there's a number of texts actually with the same meaning. They say, can we join you? And then he says, come. And then it says the best of them, the best of the Hawariyun of Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam. Wali Salih, probably alim, you can imagine, the best of the students of Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam. So what does he do? He tries. And what happens? He sinks. And then he says, Ya Nabiullah, gharaqtu. Ya Nabiullah, I sunk. And so this text says, Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam says, Arini yadaka ya qasir al-iman. He says, give me your hand, O you of deficient iman. So here's the shahid. He said, لو أن لابن آدم من اليقين قدر شعيرة مشى على الماء. He says, if the child of Adam had yaqeen the size of a barley seed, very small grain, he would walk on water. In another text similar, they ask him, بأي شيء تمشي على الماء؟ قال بالإيمان واليقين. In another text, some of them start to walk on water. They're able to do that. And then what happens is a wave comes and they sink. And then Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam says in this text, ما لكم? What's happened? And they say, خفنا الموج. We were doing fine. We had yaqeen until we saw the wave. And then he said, ألا خفتم رب الموج? Don't you fear the Lord of that wave? So the point here, حفظكم is not to, as they say, probably in America, try this at home. The point is not to walk in water. The point is not to seek this sort of karama or this sort of karama. The point is to seek istiqamah. The point is to have yaqeen. And if I have yaqeen, there will be quote unquote miracles in my life, if you know what I mean. There will be quote unquote miracles in my life by which Allah will help me, by which Allah will give me, by which Allah Ta'ala will give me from those gifts of iman, of yaqeen, of khawf, of shawq, of mahabba, of ease, of faraj, for example. There will be miracles in my life with yaqeen. Another one. So this is also from Anil Hasan al-Basri, rahimahullah. So he says this. So here's a miracle. Here is truly a karama. He says, ما أيقن عبد بالجنة والنار حق يقينهما إلا. No servant of Allah has yaqeen, true yaqeen in Jannah and in Jahannam, illa except the following happen. He says, khasha', the heart, because khushu' is, the mahal of khushu' is in the qalb, it's not in the mind. Except that the person's heart is filled with khushu' of Allah Ta'ala, of awe, of reverence, of fear, yes. And wawajila, and the heart becomes fearful. And the heart dhalla, the heart melts in my will for what Allah wills. I melt. I don't have a demand to do what Allah doesn't love. My will melts. Dhalla. I become humble. I become relaxed for what Allah wants. Wastaqama. That's the point. And such a person will achieve istiqama. An istiqama of obedience to Allah. Zahiran wa batinan. Externally and internally with my qalb. That is the intent of deen. We ask Allah for istiqama, sirat al-mustaqim, the path of istiqama. And then he says, وَاقْتَصَرَ حَتَّى يَأْتِيَهُ الْمَوْتِ, and I will live in balance until I die. Shaykhuna, how much time do we have? 10 minutes? No, from your kindness. There's some more to cover. من فضلكم وكرمكم جزاكم الله خيرا. فإنشاءالله, if you permit me, just a few more texts. This one. قال بعض الحكماء, some of the wise ulama. And when they mean that, sometimes they mean the ulama awliya, the saintly ulama. They say, وبقوة اليقين وصدق المطالبة يكون الجد والاجتهاد. Depending, proportional to the strength of my yaqeen and the sidq of my seeking Allah will be my ability to strive. So the energy that I need to obey Allah, the energy that I need to do ibadat, the energy that I need to do not only the fara'id but extra nawafil and mustahabbat, that energy is from the quwwah of my yaqeen. The more yaqeen I have, the more strength and energy I will have to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In another text, Ya Bunayya, said one of them, Al-amalu la yustata'u illa bil yaqeen. That work, serious work, is not possible except with yaqeen. وَمَنْ يَضْعُفْ يَقِينُهُ يَضْعُفْ عَمَلُهُ. The one whose yaqeen is weak, his deeds will be weak. His actions will be weak. His energy will be weak. And the last text, said one of them, إِنَّ الرَّوْحَ وَالْفَرَجَ فِي الْيَقِينِ وَالرِّضَى. Allah has placed in yaqeen, Allah Ta'ala has placed rawh, ease, tranquility, peace, serenity, and faraj, meaning relief from harm. Allah has placed it in yaqeen and rida. Allah has placed it in yaqeen and being pleased with Him. And rida comes from yaqeen. I'm able to be satisfied with Allah Ta'ala, what He does, what He wants, what He decrees, what comes to me of trials and challenges. Why? Because of my yaqeen. So if I have yaqeen, I will live a life of ruh, ease, happiness, contentment, peace, sa'ada, true happiness. And then he says, وَإِنَّ الْغَمَّ وَالْحُزْنَ مِنَ الشَّكِّ وَالسُّخْطِ. And worry, discomfort, anxiety, sadness is from what? From doubt. From doubt. And when I doubt, sukht, I'm angry with what Allah gives. Something happens to me, and because I'm not certain that Allah is in charge, I'm not certain that Allah watches, I'm not certain that Allah Ta'ala will help, I doubt. And because of that doubt, I suffer from worry. I suffer from anxiety. And I'm not speaking here about normal human, because part of worry and part of sadness is because I am human. I have to face that. I'm speaking about the unnecessary worries, the unnecessary sadnesses, the unnecessary anxieties. So, how do we lose yaqeen and how do we gain yaqeen? So, there are many things that the ulama speak about, and many texts from the Salaf and from the Khalaf about how is yaqeen lost and how is it gained. Three things. One is by dhunub. Whenever I disobey Allah Ta'ala, my qalb becomes veiled, becomes stained. And when my qalb becomes stained, I can't see truth. Because the qalb, as the ulama say, is like a mirror. The qalb is like a lens. The qalb was made to know Allah. The qalb was made to experience Allah. The qalb was made to seek Him. So, if I disobey Allah Ta'ala, as we know, whenever I commit a ma'asiyah, there's a stain النكتة سوداء on my قلب. There's a black stain on my heart. The more I disobey Allah, the more my heart is covered. The more my heart is covered, the more it will not be able to see what is true, to see what is haqq. The less it will be able to feel Allah. If my heart is stained, I will not feel Allah Ta'ala's azama, His greatness. I will not feel shawq, longing for Allah Ta'ala. I will not feel mahabba for Him, love, hub love. I will not feel khawf. I will not feel fear of Allah Ta'ala. I will not feel shukr, to be grateful to Allah Ta'ala. The heart becomes like it is dead. Something dead doesn't feel. And Tawheed, Hafidhukumullah, is about Tawheed Wijdani. Tawheed is not only intellectual Aqeedah. Yeah, it begins like that. I begin by learning Aqeedah. But that Aqeedah is something which in عقد القلب على التوحيد. The heart becomes tied to Tawheed, which means that it feels. Imagine with your wife, just imagine this case where a woman is told by a man who wants to marry her, I'll do whatever you want. I'll be the best husband. I'll give you whatever you need. I'll fulfill all of your duties, all of your rights. I'll be the perfect husband, except I will feel nothing for you. Someone tried that. One of the teachers I remember listening to years ago, he tried that in an auditorium of women to make this point. And he said, so every time he said, the perfect husband, he sensed the most handsome, the richest husband, the most giving husband. And then he said, but the husband said, I will feel nothing for you. And what they said is, he said something like, he said, will you marry such a person? What did they say? No. No. What about this? He's not so comely to your senses, to your eyes. He's not so perfect. He's got lots of faults. He's not the richest. He's quite poor. He's forgetful. But he loves you with all of his heart. Would you marry him? And he said, probably so. Imagine a relationship with Allah that doesn't have feeling, that doesn't have wujdan, that doesn't have experience. It just has, belief in my mind, aqaid, that I must have, of course. But it's more than that. Deen is more than that. So, dhunub. Number 2, bad suhbah. الرجل على دين خليله. المرء مع من أحب. المرء مع من أحب. Says the text that our children here have learned. And what a beautiful, what a beautiful text. A man is with, a woman is with whom he or she loves. What is with? What is this ma'iyya here? So many things. I act like them. I'm with them. I behave like them. I will enter the hereafter and be with those whom I love. If I love the people of Nar, truly, most likely I will end up with them. I will be with them. I will be with my emotions. It's a ma'iyya ma'nawiyya. I'm with. See, I'm with. It doesn't have to mean we're in the same space. We're with those in our minds. The mind can be with anyone, right? In the past? Yeah. Yeah, the mind can be with anyone. The body can't be with who? Imam Malik radiallahu ta'ala an. The body can't be with Imam Malik. But in a way, the mind can be with him when I remember him. And the heart can be with him in some ways. Not fully, of course. And like that, al-mar'u ma'a man ahab. So if I am with people who don't have yaqeen, who disobey Allah Azza wa Jal, I am with them. Meaning, الرجل على دين خليله. A man will take the deen of his friend. And lastly, time. The passage of time weakens yaqeen. ولا يكونوا كالذين أوتوا الكتاب من قبل فطال عليهم الأمد فقست قلوبهم. So what happens? Do we have any physicists here? Scientists? What's the law of entropy? The law of entropy is the most powerful law in the universe. Second law of thermodynamics. In any system, what's happening? Is it becoming orderly or disorderly? كل من عليها فان. Everything is becoming disorderly. So if I'm in an environment and time is passing, any time, and forget about a bad environment. Imagine a bad environment, which makes it worse. But even if it was a good environment, and I'm not doing anything to make my system, my ecosystem, my spiritual ecosystem, if I'm not making it munazzam, if I'm not making it murattab, if I'm not making it orderly, it's going to become disorderly. Now imagine I'm in a bad environment. So I have time plus negative, negative, negative. So if I and you, hafidhukumullah, and we end, if I and you are not making an effort to keep our qulub connected to Allah Azza wa Jal, we will be losing our iman. And therefore, in any environment, now what about a bad environment? So, I need to be making more effort positively than negative effort from the law of those who are imposing pressure on me from the outside, and more effort than the law of entropy is working inside of me. Are you with me? Make sense? I need to be making more positive effort than the sum of the negative effort around me and the rate of entropy in nature. Whatever that rate is at the spiritual level. Maybe it's different from person to person. If I'm not making more positive the effort than the negative sum total of that, what's going to happen? I lose iman. I lose yaqeen. It's simple as that. And what would be of this positive effort? Many things, you know. Of the most important is dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The forgotten ibadah, like dua. The forgotten sunnah, like dua. The forgotten ibadah, the forgotten sunnah. If we want to be people of sunnah, and we do, that means being people of dhikr. Because he was always, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in dhikr, da'iman, always with his qalb, always, even when he sleeps. And then with his words, with his deeds, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sometimes qalb, words and deeds, but at least at his level, always with the qalb, in remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Muraqabah of Allah ta'ala. Allah is watch, and whatever he at his maqam, what his dhikr was like. Allahu Akbar. But the way to organize my inside and to keep and generate iman and inshallah yaqeen is kathratu dhikrillah. A lot of dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Of all sorts. Quran, salawat on him sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, dua, sadaqah, watching my akhlaq is dhikr. Being in dhikr of La ilaha illallah, and you know so many options that we have. And that's why Allah Ta'ala says, Udhkurullaha dhikran kathira. Allah doesn't say just be in dhikr of Allah. Because just dhikr without being kathiran is not enough to order the entropy inside. It has to tilt. There has to be such dhikr that it has an effect on my qalb. A little dhikr is good, but it may not change the wave inside. The wave that comes that makes me lose yaqeen, like in that story. It has to be enough, stronger, powerful. One text says, the ulama quote it, حتى يقال, do dhikr to the extent حتى يقال, until they say you're crazy. One text says that. Do as much dhikr until it is said you're mad. And why would they say you're mad? Why? How would they know? How would they know? People outside are making a hukm upon you to say majnoon. Because they think what? They think you're talking to yourself. And they think not only that, because people talk to themselves, self-talk, right, is even part of what, New Age counseling, self-talk, affirmative talk. Because you're talking to yourself all the time. Then they think you're definitely crazy. Not just because you talk to yourself. Imagine, he's reminding himself, but if they see me all like that, they say, he's definitely. That's when I know that I'm making enough dhikr. Just so we set the bar high. And we don't think, after salah, I make some tasbihat, and I do it so fast that I don't even know what I'm saying. Subhanallah, subhanallah. I don't even know what I mean. Allahu Akbar, Allah. I don't even know what I mean. There's no ma'na to it. Then I think it's enough. No. Until it is said about the person, majnoon. Then inshallah, I'm doing enough to order the entropy inside of me. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And lastly, dua. So how do I get yaqeen? The opposite. Good suhbah. Suhbah of the salihun. Suhbah of the sadiqun. That suhbah will generate yaqeen. Don't disobey Allah Ta'ala. And kathratu dhikrillah. And lastly, and the easiest one, dua. Because we saw the first text. Ask Allah. Now that I know what the greatest gift is, the rarest gift is, the most transformative gift is, khalas, it remains for me to ask. Imagine I don't ask knowing this. I must be the laziest, most foolish, most selfish, mad person on the earth. After the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and I don't ask. And if I don't ask probably every day, I must be so lazy. Completely no himmah. Completely unconcerned about my own welfare. Khalas, this means a few times a day. How hard is it? Allahumma inni as'aluka al-yaqeen wal-afiyah. That takes what, 2 seconds? I should be making that a wird. A wird. I don't know how many times a day. Allahumma inni as'aluka al-yaqeen wal-afiyah. Allahumma, in my sujood, in my dua, after salah, to make that sincerely. And may Allah Ta'ala grant me and you that of His greatest gifts that He gives to rare ones. but that inshallah out of his lutf, out of his love, out of his rahmah, out of his karam, out of his jood, out of his wood love for us, may he, despite me, despite that I don't deserve that, may he from the mahd of his fadl grant us yaqeen and afiyah. Jazakumullahu khairan. We conclude. Do we even have time? Actually, I'm gonna, if you give me 2 minutes, Shaykhuna, that's it. Simply this, I'm not gonna do the presentation. I usually miss time, how much I need to cover and what I feel like I really need for myself to hear. Ya'lamullah, for myself to hear. This is part of a seminar of over 32 seminars that the Suhbah Seminary does. The Suhbah Seminary is a madrasa in Istanbul. We've had over the years a Suhbah program with Sheikh Mukhtar Maghrawi for 1 year, and then it became online, and now in this October we're having a 5-year program. The program focuses on ilm and amal and akhlaq. Ilm is not important only if it doesn't come with amal. And ilm is only useful if it changes my akhlaq. And so the program is built in that sense. All of the ulum are taught within the window of tazkiyatun nafs. All of them, including even usul al-fiqh, maqasid al-sharia, hadith studies, aqidah, and so forth. The program is all online, but also in person. So any of the students who would like to come to Istanbul and do classes in person, to be in the halqat of dhikr in person, they're welcome. You can come for a few months, you can come with your family for a few weeks as part of the program. The flyers are there, and this book here, which is the prospectus, it outlines everything in the program, all of the modules, all of the courses, the manhaj of Suhbah, the pedagogy of ilm, of amal, and all of the seminars like this, seminars as well that speak about atheism, that speak about the digital world, that speak about topics that we have to learn about, like perennialism, like New Age spirituality, like politics, like da'wah, like Islamic history. All of that are part of the curriculum, and the information is here. If any of you are seriously considering it, please take a free copy, as well as the flyers that are also here. Jazakumullahu khairan. If you have any questions, perhaps later I might be able to answer that. Please forgive me for the long, extended discussion. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. ونشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك اللهم ونتوب إليك اللهم إنا نسألك حسن اليقين والعافية اللهم إنا نسألك حسن اليقين والعافية اللهم إنا نسألك حسن اليقين والعافية بجاه سيد الأولين والآخرين صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We're going to have a little bit of a change in our agenda, inshallah. I know some people are waiting for praying Isha, inshallah. So we're going to pray first, and then we'll have dinner afterwards, and we'll eat dinner, inshallah, quickly, so that we can also have a little bit of qiyam right afterwards. One thing, two things I just wanted to say is, my only affiliation to the Suhbah program is I was a student of it for the last 2 years, and I can be a witness that truly it has made a difference in my own relationship with Allah, in my own qalb, in my own actions, and in my own relationships with my spouse, with my friends, my family, with my colleagues at work. And so I really want to encourage you to learn more about it. If you're interested, like the Sheikh said, there's a prospectus, and ask Sidi Saeed or myself or anyone for it, and we're happy to give it to you if you'd like to learn more, inshallah. And secondly, if you're interested in learning, continuing to learn from Sheikh Riyad, tomorrow at 5:30 there'll be a program at the Lexington Masjid, so Masjid in Lexington, inshallah, where he'll also be giving a talk on the key to solace, or key to tranquility, which is the spiritual heart. So if you'd like to join us then, please do, inshallah. We'll start with the Shaykh.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
استووا واعتدلوا سووا صفوفكم فإن تسوية الصفوف من تمام الصلاة الله أكبر الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم ملك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين وقال وقال الذين كفروا ربنا أرنا الذين أضلانا من الجن والإنس نجعلهما تحت أقدامنا ليكونا من الأسفلين إن الذين قالوا ربنا الله ثم استقاموا تتنزل عليهم الملائكة ألا تخافوا ولا تحزنوا وأبشروا بالجنة التي كنتم توعدون نحن أولياؤكم في الحياة الدنيا وفي الآخرة ولكم فيها ما تشتهي أنفسكم ولكم فيها ما تدعون نزلا من غفور رحيم ومن أحسن قولا ممن دعا إلى الله وعمل صالحا وقال إنني من المسلمين ولا تستوي الحسنة ولا السيئة ادفع بالتي هي أحسن فإذا الذي بينك وبينه عداوة كأنه ولي حميم وما يلقاها إلا الذين صبروا وما يلقاها إلا ذو حظ عظيم وإما ينزغنك من الشيطان نزغ فاستعذ بالله إنه هو السميع العليم الله سمع الله لمن حمده الله 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 أكبر الله أكبر الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم ملك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله ولتنظر نفس ما قدمت لغد واتقوا الله إن الله خبير بما تعملون ولا تكونوا كالذين نسوا الله فأنساهم أنفسهم أولئك هم الفاسقون لا يستوي أصحاب النار وأصحاب الجنة أصحاب الجنة هم الفائزون لو أنزلنا هذا القرآن على جبل لرأيته خاشعا متصدعا من خشية الله لرأيته خاشعا متصدعا من خشية الله وتلك الأمثال نضربها للناس لعلهم يتفكرون هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو عالم الغيب والشهادة هو الرحمن الرحيم هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الملك القدوس السلام المؤمن المهيمن العزيز الجبار المتكبر سبحان الله عما يشركون هو الله الخالق البارئ المصور له الأسماء الحسنى يسبح له ما في السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم الله سمع الله لمن حمده الله 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 أكبر الله الله أكبر الله سمع الله لمن حمده الله 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 أكبر الله أكبر الله سمع الله لمن حمده. الله 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 أكبر. الله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.